the jury, District Attorney Sullivan is Vanessa's mother.
That's right, that's what I just said.
And when she got to the scene, she was very upset.
That's right, as any mother would be. I mean, her daughter had just died in a car.
In fact, you would say that she was very, very angry.
That's right.
And you told her that Vanessa had been taken to the hospital.
I did.
But she remained on the scene while you were doing those field sobriety tests.
That's right. She was noticeably uncomfortable about being at the scene. So as a member of the FCT, I talked with her, I worked with her, I tried to calm her down as soon as she got to the scene. I've been trained in how to do this.
Now, Officer Foster, she started screaming at Mr. Dawson, isn't that right?
That's right.
She was screaming things like, I'm going to put this
Objection,
monster...
Your Honor. Hearsay. Hearsay, Your Honor. As the statements made by Ms. Sullivan on that night.
Your Honor, if I may, we're not offering these statements for any truth value. We're just offering them to show that the entire time Mr. Dawson was trying to do these field sobriety tests, he was being screamed at, he was being threatened. We're not trying to prove anything that she's saying is true, just that she was yelling it. Mr. Dawson, she was yelling things like, I'm going to put this man away for the rest of his life.
Her daughter had just died. She was pretty angry. She was saying stuff like that.
So you were, with one hand, you were trying to instruct Mr. Dawson about these field sobriety tests, while with the other hand, you were trying to keep District Attorney Sullivan away.
No, that was certainly not the case. I first talked with Ms. Sullivan when she got to the scene. I calmed her down. I was trying to work with her. She was noticeably upset.
Officer Foster, you asked her to stop screaming at the defendant.
I did.
You asked her to stop screaming at Mr. Dawson because you believed that she was making him nervous.
Well, anybody would be nervous under those conditions, which is why I didn't want Danny to start those field sobriety tests while she was screaming.
She ignored you.
She did, but then I calmed her down and we conducted the field sobriety tests.
While you were conducting these field sobriety tests, now Mr. Dawson, he had just been in a fatal car accident.
Right, so that's why I conducted the preliminary examination to make sure if I could conduct these field sobriety tests.
Now, that car accident didn't happen but 15 minutes before you started those field sobriety tests.
That's correct, but he was good to go on the field sobriety test because of the preliminary examination.
The other occupant of that vehicle, the young lady that was sitting in the back, she was taken to the hospital.
That's correct. She was in a lot worse condition than Dawson was after the accident.
Mr. Dawson, he wasn't taken to the hospital.
He didn't need it.
As far as you know, he was never even checked out by any paramedics.
Well, I checked him out before starting the field sobriety test, and he was okay to go then.
I'm sorry, Officer Foster. I'm not asking about your medical evaluation. I'm asking about if he was actually examined by a paramedic, and he wasn't.
No, he wasn't.
And it was after Mr. Dawson had just been in a fatal car accident, never taken to the hospital, never medically examined, when you started that preliminary diagnostic test.
That's right. I did do that.
I want to talk some more about those tests. One of them you mentioned was this horizontal gaze nystagmus.
The HGN test. That's right.
You hold a pen in front of their eyes and make sure they can focus on it correctly.
That's correct.
Officer Foster, your police car was at the scene.
That's right.
You had your police lights on.
I did.
Those police lights, they're designed to catch the attention of people.
That's right, which is why I had Dawson, when he was doing the HGN test, looking away from my car. So my car was behind Dawson, and he was looking towards me, so the lights from the car wouldn't interfere with the test.
And then the other test that you did that Mr. Dawson had to balance on the roadway.
That's right.
Officer Foster, it was pouring down rain that night.
It was.
It was wet.
It was.
It was slippery.
That's right, of course.
In fact, Mr. Dawson was blaming the slipperiness of the road while he was doing those field sobriety tests.
Right, but he was stumbling during the test, and this stumbling is really indicative of a sign of inebriation.
To be fair, Officer Foster, you almost fell down at one point. That's how slick the road was.
I almost slipped, but I wasn't stumbling like the defendant was during these tests.
Officer Foster, it was after that you took Mr. Dawson to the police station.
That's right, I conducted my 3 field sobriety tests, and I took him into the station.
Now, just to be clear, because it was raining that night, you weren't not able to take any notes at the scene.
That's right, I got it all up here. 7 years on the squad, I know to remember everything.
Everything you told us about the way the car was behaving, the way Mr. Dawson performed on his field sobriety test, now that's all from memory.
That's right.
I pass the witness.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Foster, on cross-examination, opposing counsel asked about the field sobriety tests.
Right.
Based on your experience running these tests, were Mr. Dawson's results consistent with being nervous or being inebriated at the scene?
They were consistent with being inebriated at the scene. He failed all those 3 sobriety tests.